Alright, enough about my education and that, well, in my youth time, but I can say that I can say in a survival situation that you can create your own work, and you can you can barter your way through life if you want to. You just have to have the drive, and my dad taught me that. He said that when during the Depression that they used to go along the railroad tracks and pick up coal that the trains dropped off, and they'll put it in their pot-belly stoves to survive, during the cold weather. There's through camping and building campfires and hunting and building and doing carpentry and mechanic work. I mean, I have all the skills that I need. If shit ever hits the fan, I could use my services for something. I could barter my services, and that to me I think is where it's going to come to, is if the grid ever goes down. I mean, if you don't have the skills, the life skills, the handy skills, you're not going to make it. If you don't prep, for an emergency, or just prep ahead like the old farmers did, they'd farm for the community, but then they'd have their own farm for their own self, like their own garden that they grew their own vegetables, and they had their animals that they used to feed themselves in case something would ever happen. A lot of people survived during the Great Depression in that manner, but a lot of people died too. But that to me is important. But if you're a sickly person, you might have troubles. Like, I'm disabled right now. I have back problems and nerve damage in my neck and my lower back and my elbow. So I'm really limited with a whole lot of things I can do physically. Excuse me. I still smoke. It's a nasty habit, but I gave up a lot of other habits. I don't drink. I never was a drinker. I drank when I was younger. I don't know why I'm telling my life story on here, but I was going to write a book, but I thought maybe an audio book of myself might be just as good, I guess. But I hear some rumbling in the background. It's been raining today. So, well, anyways, after high school, I was working in I worked at a bowling alley. I was still into bowling. I met some people. I was kind of wild, I guess. I always had a car, I always had a nice car. Everybody wanted to go with me partying. I partied too much. I think that was my biggest problem when I was younger. But I got it out of my system though. Between like 18 and 21, I did some things that I am ashamed of myself of. And later on in my life, I lived on the edge, and never thought about God a whole lot back then. But I was raised a Christian. I was baptized and all that. Went to church regular, but I quit but I just didn't really see it too much, I was too busy with myself. But working was a thing. Sounds like it'll start raining here. But I had worked, and I was smoking weed back then, and wasn't really a decent job. I was driving for a printing company, and got caught smoking weed in his truck and got fired. Or I didn't actually get fired. He let me quit. I collected unemployment. Nice guy. I was a good worker, but I screwed up. And that's where my kind of life took a turn for a downturn. But I don't want to get into that right now. But being in survival, I was a survivalist, you know. I've always had a bike, 10-speed bike, and you know, when I didn't have a car, I had a bike. I mean, for transportation, even up until I became disabled, I had a bike, and I rode that thing everywhere. When I didn't have my car, I sold my car because I needed the money, and I drove that bike everywhere to the doctors and that. I mean, kept the exercise going. I was pretty good. I was in pretty much good shape most of my life. I played softball up till I was like 30-something. Bowled most of my life. I was in many bowling leagues. Worked in many different bowling alleys. You know, I learned how to fix the machines, the AMF bowling machines. I learned that when I was young, you know, and but being an AMF mechanic, you didn't make a whole lot of money, but as a pin chaser, that's what they called them. But I was always able to get a job as a night mechanic at any bowling alley. No problems, you know. But there's my mechanical ability. Fixing the AMS machines is like working on robots. So they were kind of complicated when I was first learning about them, but they are literally robots. They're just, each machine is a robot. So I learned about what I could say they're robots. AMF, American Machine Foundry. The AMF bowling machines are all computerized now, and they got servos and, you know, computers for brains, and, you know, switching boxes, and, you know, micro switches and all that stuff. And I just learned all about that over the years. I ended up becoming a head mechanic at a bowling alley in Toledo. And I trained employees. I went to school, trained employees. I had several employees working under me. And I basically took a long time because I didn't know anything about everything about the machines. I just knew enough to keep them running. But I learned the hard way when I became the head mechanic, because the head mechanic referred me because I worked for him. Because I had worked there for several years at night as a night mechanic for him, and he just liked my work, I guess. And I was driving a truck and I hurt my back, and I was off work, and my boss called me from the other bowling alley and said, "You want a job as a head mechanic?" I'm like, "How much?" It was more than when I was getting paid to drive a truck, hauling doubles down the turnpike all the time, hurting my back. So I took that job. I worked there for about 5 years, head mechanic. Learned a lot about the internal workings of the bowling machine. Went to school. Very complicated machines, you know. They're not, you know, people don't realize it when they go bowling. You know, it's like when it's down, they don't understand. And in the year 2000, I was, check some here. In the year 2000, the Pro-Am Bowling Championship was at Southwick Lanes in Toledo, and I used to work there too. Knew the owner. I was buddies with the owner's son. Him and I partied. But I'll get into that in part 3 of the next video. This is going to shut off on me.